Skip it up and that up.
I'm Mikey, and this is Review Mikey USA, where I bring you the hottest game in Goss. At least I think it's the hottest. I don't really know. I just picked some random articles. To be honest with you, I haven't even read some of these beforehand, so apologies for any and all fake news that I end up sharing. Technically, it's the journalist's fault and not mine. Get into our first story. There's been a lot of surprises coming from Indiana Jones in the Great Circle. The first surprise was that the pre-order sales were way lower than what Bethesda predicted they would be. Like almost 90% worse than Dragon Age the Veilguards. The second was that this hoe is like 132 gigs for an 8-hour game! Cause optimizing games is to modern developers what getting back to the moon is to modern NASA engineers. Somehow, they just forgot how to do it. They just forgot. They just don't know how to do it anymore. And the third surprise is that it's actually not bad. According to reviews from both consumers and critics, it's pretty alright. Definitely above average as far as movie tie-in games go. Here's the problem. There's no new Indiana Jones movie for this game to be tied to because we're pushing on big 2025 and nobody cares about Indiana Jones anymore, especially not Zoomers who make up the largest consumer demographic in gaming. The Dial of Destiny was one of the most expensive movies ever, and it didn't make its money back. But Disney, for whatever reason, thinks this franchise's popularity is going to outlive Harrison Ford, Steven Spielberg, and George Lucas. Indiana Jones is not Star Wars or Marvel. His relevancy will die with the white men who created him. Anyway, moving on. Now our next story actually doesn't exist. It would be me talking about Dragon Age the Veilguard sales, but I can't do that because they still haven't been disclosed. Those cowards at BioWare and EA just refuse to give up the sauce about how Veilguard performed. Let's be real, that behavior alone already tells us everything we need to know. Come on, a major gaming release, one of EA's top franchises, and these fools can't give us some rough numbers after a month and a half? Oh, and they got no plans for DLC. Those numbers gotta be abominable. Uglier than Tash when she's flirting with you. Well, at least they still got a new Mass Effect in the chamber. Hopefully it'll be an upgrade from Andromeda. So there's been a high-profile murder recently, and you don't need to have your ear to the street to know who got. It's literally everywhere. You can't get away from it. I'm of course talking about the death of Overwatch as the SFM porn king. It was a good run. Tracer, Black Widow, and Mercy had a dynasty on their hands, just putting up generational numbers. The amount of times these characters have been googled by people who've played less than an hour of Overwatch cannot be overstated. But a new kid showed up on the block, Marvel Rivals. And man, things are already getting a little crazy. You might even say things are getting nuts. Oh, and Marvel Rivals broke 10 million players in 3 days. I guess that's newsworthy too? Overwatch 2, on the other hand, had its lowest player count after Marvel Rivals launched. Imagine not only getting your audience stolen, but also getting your Rule 34 MVP status stolen at the same time. Absolutely cold-blooded. The Chinese are merciless. So for our next story, Ubisoft is on fire? And when I say on fire, I don't mean in the doing well or being successful or thriving sense of the phrase. I mean in the these snail-eating niggas are doomed sense of the phrase. As you could tell by peeping at their stock price, which keeps plummeting week after week. They're even pulling the plug on X-Defiant, which hasn't even been live for a full year, throwing it on top of the growing pile of dead Ubisoft live service games. They also said that they delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows until February because they wanted to change the narrative on their consistency. Look, this ain't got nothing to do with consistency. What it is that you're betting the car, house, and goddamn city block on Assassin's Creed Shadows because the possibility is strong that Assassin's Creed and Rainbow Six's new home will be in China like they're washed up NBA players. Yves Guillemot out here blabbering, talking about how if Tencent buys Assassin's Creed, he still wants his family to have control and influence over the franchise's direction. Who does this Guelo think he is? Monsieur Guillemot. That's not how buyouts work. Somehow, despite owning some of the most iconic IPs in gaming history, you and your family still managed to careen your studio into financial desperation with countless poor business and creative decisions, to the point that you're planning to take the company private after selling off those same iconic IPs that made you a household name to begin with. The Chinese are not going to let you keep wasting their money after watching you set your own on fire, Eve. Now our next story is a little wild. Brace yourselves. I'm sad to announce that Hideo Kojima was in a tragic accident after falling asleep at the wheel while playing Death Stranding 2. Honestly though, this is the type of thing that makes Kojima a legend. He's actually making a game that's so boring, it's putting him to sleep. This is like a pro boxer managing to knock themselves out. I've never heard of something like this. And this wasn't a leak. Nobody working at Kojima Productions took a secret snapshot of Kojima nodding off and leaked it to the gaming press. No, Kojima told us this personally. He wants you to know just how boring his next game is going to be. When Death Stranding 2 drops, it's gonna be like digital melatonin. One session and it's night-night for you. Most developers make boring games by accident. But Kojima-san? No, he's on his Sandman timing with this one. And for our last story, Rocksteady Studios announced that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League Season 4 Episode 8 DLC will be the last new content added to the game. Now I know what you're all thinking. Damn. Suicide Squad has been getting updates this whole time? Yeah, I was shocked too when I read it. Man, we really haven't been giving Rocksteady the respect they deserve for sticking with their game as much as they have and trying to provide their player base with as much content as possible. These dudes really stuck it out. They had hope to the very end. They saw their initial negative reception and were like, you know what? We're gonna turn it around. We're gonna pull a No Man's Sky on these bitches. But nah, nobody's playing Suicide Squad. I feel kinda bad for them, because they were really putting some work into this thing. But hey, sometimes you just fail. Sometimes you try your hardest and you put your heart and soul into something, and you just fail miserably anyways. It just wasn't in the cards for you, man. I'ma let life coach Dave Blunts take it away.
Don't do drugs, man. Don't give up on your fucking dreams. It may seem like it's never gonna happen, but that shit might fuck around and happen one day, you know what I'm saying? But also at the same time, you gotta know when to stop, man. You gotta know when to just give up and just quit. It's not for everybody, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people will just waste their whole life and it just won't happen. It's just not meant for you.
Yeah, so that's all I got. Look, I'm gonna be real. I was just reading random articles to you niggas. I'm not putting any real effort or research into this. This is pure slop content.